Welcome to another Go and Grow Masterclass for the V4-Ukraine Talent Fusion series. Today we will talk about competitive UX strategies for startups.
So, why am I here? I'm a product designer with degrees in experience design and physics. I worked in two tech consultancies, one Swedish and one Indian one, with both large companies and startups as clients. I worked as UX designer, UX researcher, service designer, and lately product discovery consultant. And last but not least, I was a design lead for a US-based healthcare startup. So I would like to talk about UX strategy in startups. Insights I will share based on my experience and some research I did with two more startups and their design leads. So yeah, in a moment I'll tell about insights in one London startup, which was a bootstrap MVP version, one Israeli startup after the MVP and before the big relaunch, and one US startup with Ukrainian engineering, where we went from absolute zero to full alpha release. Yeah, so what is a UX strategy? There are many definitions, so I'll share a few and we can discuss a few implications from those. UX strategy is a well-researched long-term direction for the design of user experiences, plus partial and illustrated plans of action to beat the competition. In the following few minutes, we'll unwrap what this means and what this implies. So, another way to look at UX strategy is pretty much four components. It's a clear picture of current customer reality, so knowing what your customers are and what they want. It's a shared vision for future and clear principles for customer experience. UX roadmap, measurement, and evaluation framework. One main thing that came out of my experience and my discussions with other startup designers, that in a small startup, product strategy rules. It is so overwhelming and it defines everything that main UX decisions and parts of UX strategy are kind of coming out of that straight away, and the rest of this UX strategy stays on so-called tactical level, kind of by seat of the pants. In larger or late stage startup, with the complexity and the scale, UX strategies are more formal. They require more serious road mapping, estimation, and measurement. So before I talk about the insights, I'll introduce a little bit better the three startups that I base my insights and suggestions on. So first was a London startup, 0 to 1 and bootstrapped. It was just 7 humans in the team. Customers were customers for the startup, for the startup product, were startup founders and Web3 people. And the unique value proposition of the startup was user acquisition insights for these startup founders who just established their products and are still trying to understand what kind of users they acquired and how they can get more of them through the insights. And it was a pretty short MVP phase of 6 months. Another startup was an Israeli one, and it was kind of the previous startup after the MVP ended. So it had already bigger engineering team of 10. The customers for these startups were small and mid-sized contractors. And the unique value proposition was industry and scale specific solution. And this before big launch phase lasted a year. Last but not the least, there is a US healthcare startup where we went from scratch to beta release. It was quite decently sized engineering team of 15, product engineering team of 15, and it was a product for small US hospitals to accommodate their scale. So now that you know where the insights and lessons learned come from, let's talk about a few key insights on how to define UX strategy. First of all, you need vision and alignment. You need to establish it before you start, but also you need to kind of stay on track and keep it valid through the entire duration of your work. So shared vision, you have to understand what's the overall big hairy goal for your enterprise, and what is the more practical MVP vision or vision for the first phase. If you are not fully aligned on that with how fast you run through the first phase and how intense the work is, you might start diverging a little bit. And in Q&A session, we'll talk more about how things can go wrong there. For things not to go wrong, you also need to know each other, because you have usually a very small team. Each person can make or break your project or product. If you overestimate or underestimate some professional skills or personal skills of your team members, it can complicate things for you. And you don't have to go very enterprise and formal on the risk assessment, but I recommend looking up so-called pre-mortem workshop or pre-mortem exercise to do this like more human-like risk assessment with your team. A few things that can go wrong. I'll be coming back to this a few more times, but what can happen is someone might go for example, in the engineering or design or front end especially, someone can go for a framework that is kind of new to them and seriously underestimate how much time things can take to accomplish. So make sure there is no false confidence or overestimating abilities of your team members. Know exactly what you are capable of, even if you're ambitious. Another part of the strategy that is critical is to know your customers. Try to find real humans, talk to them, gather the insights, understand what makes them tick, and make a lot of notes so that you can come back to them later. If you are not sure who your customers are, or you struggle to find the kind of customer that you would like to attract, try to look at similar products or products that are familiar in the industry, and talk to customers of those products. That can also help you with the insights. And we can talk about this in the Q&A, but I can share some templates on the would-be and lookalike customer research. Also try to build journey maps and storytelling for your user personas, it will help a lot for the rest of the team to stay aligned. Just as well as you need to know your customers, you need to understand your competitors. Find them, understand which of them are more critical for you, which are more fitting to you in your current MVP phase, and which of them are more relevant for you in your big launch or next stage of funding phase. There are multiple ways to go around competitors. You don't only have to stop on desktop research, or you can go visit them. You can become their customers. You can actually try using their services. You can ask your users to register and use their products, or vice versa. You can interview their users, regular users, to know the competitive products better. But be very careful, because there are several pitfalls in competitive analysis. Try not to match another product feature for feature. There is a big chance to go wrong there. After all is said and done, don't start building your product until you prototype multiple ideas, test them and validate them. One good example of doing that is running a Google Sprint. The benefit of Google Sprint or Google Design Sprint is that you can actually test your product before you start building it in just 1 week, and also kind of validate how well you're prepared for building your MVP. And for every new step where you're not sure or risks are high, building throwaway prototypes or testing very early coded product can save you a lot of money and time in the long run. One thing that is very difficult to prototype is the technical debt, so try to keep track of it if you can, and be realistic about how much it can incapacitate you later in the process. Be realistic about whether you will keep the MVP code or you want to start from scratch after the next round of investment. Strategy is great, but the strategy is built on humans and built and implemented and realized by humans. So I would like to, since I'm talking about real startups, I would like to first say huge thanks and give word appreciation to the teams that work in very stressful conditions under high risks and are giving almost everything they have in terms of time and effort and emotional investment in the product. Team is a very important part of a startup. Is pretty much almost everything there is. And please remember that in a startup, like in a larger company, there is very little human redundancy. Almost every person does something, and sometimes is responsible for entire competency or entire part of the product. And one person can basically, if something happens, one person can make a gap in your product team almost instantly. And stress, always remember about stress and mental health of your team. Keep track of the state of the stress and mental health, because if something doesn't work or break, it can be a very critical stop in the product. Let's talk about a few more strategy insights that don't fall into any of these categories. Out of the all people I talk to in all startups, front end is the face of your product. Designers can help build it, but pretty much everything depends on a front-end engineer. How fast they work, how well they communicate with both other engineers and designers is crucial. In my experience and the experience of people I talk to, any issues in the front end or any issues with the front end engineering work, which is pretty much done by one person usually, can be catastrophic. So please make sure you know your front-end engineer, you know what they are capable of, what they are not capable of, and be very realistic in your estimates on the amount of work they can do and what they can't do. Also know your budget. In a few of the startups I was in, we were able to really significantly cut costs by basically not using not building some of the user interface areas. Like, very simple example, with a startup, with the first one London-based, for the user acquisition insights, we basically did the user sign-up registration, user account management, billing, and access management. We did everything through Discord, which saved us a lot of pages, and we were able to focus on building the pilot that is delivering only the critical value add for the product. Get good in estimation for a small product. When you're building a startup, the mistakes are less critical, but when you are in later stages, when you are rebuilding your product for big relaunch, when you are rebuilding for scale, incorrectly estimating the engineering and design effort can throw you off by months, which in one of the startups I talked about, this happened. Basically, incorrect estimation of the front-end design system build cost entire team of 15, almost 2 months. And last but not least, leash your ego. Be ambitious but realistic about what you can achieve within the time you have and the budget you have, so that you stay on your budget and on your time. So these are a few of the key insights on the strategy. If we go back to the components that we discussed, we talked about the clear picture of the customer reality that's achieved through user research. We talked about shared vision for the future inside the team, and aligned vision between the founders and the rest of the team members. We can talk about the UX roadmap during the Q&A session, and we can talk there about measurement and evaluation framework for both your product and competitive strategy, competitive analysis as well. Thank you for your time, and we can get to questions and talk more about the lessons learned and about your experiences in your products or in your ventures. Thank you.